This is a right hind, and you can see it is a blonde foot. The great thing about having feet that are blonde or white is that you actually can see when there is staining inside the hoof wall. And this sort of appearance is quite common. We do see it a lot, and a lot of owners would be concerned about this and want to know, why is this happening? Why have we got this bloodline running around here? I'm going to call it a bloodline because that's what I think it is. I think it's a bruise, for want of a better word. It's blood that has got in the hoof wall, and the question will be, where has it come from? Now, we have to apply some critical thinking here, because we know that the hoof wall is highly resistant, if not totally resistant, to moisture coming through from the outside to the inside, and moisture from the inside to the outside. So this hoof wall is absolutely fit for purpose. It's not going to let any liquid in, it's not going to let any liquid out. So in that case, why do we have this appearance here? Now, initially you might think, well, it's come from inside the hoof and it's come across the hoof wall, and now we can see it. And that does sound like a reasonable assumption. And especially when you look at where these two lines are, if you eye up where this red is, which is about here, through here, and then keep your eye on where that line is, that event line, and can you see we've got the same line through there? Let's have a think about, why have we got these red marks in these two areas, here and here? They happen to be on the same plane. We also happen to see something here in the hoof wall. It looks a little bit like well, I wanted to say an abscess blow, but it looks a bit too superficial to be that. I'm not sure that it is an abscess blow. I believe some trimmers would call it a fungal tear, but I don't really know what a fungal tear is. I think it is a tearing or a fracture in the hoof wall, the outside layer, the more exterior layer, and then fungi have got in, and then we have the black, which is the telltale sign of fungal invasion. So it could be that there's abscess, that an abscess occurred here, and it does sort of fit in a little bit with what's happening here, although this redness is a little bit higher, isn't it? So what else is happening? Well, there's a bit of a deep line through this area where we have the red. There are lines, growth rings, all the way through this foot. So there's lots of things are happening inside this horse's body to create all these different growth rings in the foot. And we know that they can be due to so many different things. Many trimmers will read a lot into growth rings. Others would say, no, they're just showing you what's happening when the hoof wall is being laid down up here, where it grows inside this area here called the coronary groove. And I tend to agree with that, and I might change my mind later on where more evidence comes out, but for now, I mean, I wouldn't want to see lots of growth rings, deep growth rings, and I certainly wouldn't want to see them diverging, meaning they're very tight at the front here and they're going wider at the back. That would be an indication of laminitis. However, with growth rings, I think sometimes we just have to accept that they're going to be there, and ideally we don't want any. Now, if you look a little bit more carefully, there's more redness down here as well. Let's have a look at the other side. Nothing really down here, very little. So the question will be, is where has this come from? Now, if the hoof wall is impermeable to anything moving across it, that means that any blood inside this capsule would not be able to go across the hoof wall to be shown here on the outer part of the hoof wall, just underneath the very surface of the hoof wall. So how do we know that? How do we know that that blood is not coming from inside? Well, only because of the structure of the wall and knowing that it's impossible really for it to do so. Let me show you what a hoof wall looks like. So this is a slice that's been cut. It's from a horse that is about the same size, and it's been cut probably about there. So we've just taken a cut through here, and this is what it would look like if we did that cut. Now when we look at the hoof wall, you can see it's pretty thick, isn't it? So this is the hoof wall round here, and in this case there's no discoloration that is running across the hoof wall. There's discoloration up there, and you know why that is? That's because we have little fingers that contain blood vessels which dip down into little sockets in this area, and they're called papillae, coronary papillae. And because this has been in the freezer, the blood vessels have frozen, the blood cells have frozen, and the red blood cells have released their contents, the hemoglobin. And that's why we can see this staining down here. And when I turn this round, we can see where the hoof wall actually grows from. So this is the coronary band area, and if I turn it round, this is part of the coronary band, this piece here. Now this has been freeze dried, so it's not soft anymore, but this would be quite soft if this was still fresh tissue. And when we turn this round, we're going a little bit further back in the foot. So the area where the wall grows from is this area here, this shelf here, and this shelf here. I know it's hard to see, but there's like a C shape there. And so what we think is happening when we see blood down here in the wall is we think that the blood has got trapped up here as the wall cells are being produced. Now, we know that there's blood in there anyway because we have the papillae and they're feeding these cells here, so these cells will divide. But if there's trauma up there, or trauma anywhere really, which has caused fracture of the blood vessels around here, and trauma can also be a laminitis episode. It can be where the coffin bone has dropped a little bit because of laminitis, because it's lost its suspension within the capsule. And that can cause tearing and fracturing of the blood vessels around here, and they're going to leak their contents. Now, we wouldn't see the line straight away, but as the wall grows down, this wall is going to grow right down till it gets to the bottom. What happens is the cells here are going to divide, and they push them down. The daughters are going to push the mothers down, and then the daughters are going to divide, and they're going to be pushed down by their daughters and their daughters. So up here we have all the baby cells, and down here we have many, many generations, 9 months worth of cells which have been pushed down by the generating cells up there. So if we are trapping blood in that area there, then that blood is going to slowly move down as the hoof wall grows down, as those cells are pushed down, and then we're going to see it. Now, quite often people will say, well, I've not seen this before, and it suddenly appeared. And look, I've said it as well. But we have to understand that it can only come from up there. And I've checked this out with Professor Pollitt, and he agrees that the only place that this staining can come from is from up here. And the staining has been incorporated into the cellular matrix as this wall is growing down. So something happened in this horse's life at this stage. So if we assume, let's for argument's sake, this is 12 months. So we could work out, this will be 6 months here, and this will be 3 months there, say, or it'll be 9 months, won't it? So 3, 6, 9, 12. So 9 months ago, when the cells were being formed up here, something happened in this horse's life. Something happened which actually broke apart the blood vessels. They were fractured. and they link their contents into here, and that's why we see them. And when we look around here, we have this in exactly the same place. So it sort of adds up, doesn't it, really, that an event has occurred, say 9 months ago in the horse's life, and 9 months ago we've got these strange little appearances. Now, I'm not really that excited about these. These are just deeper rings which have got a little bit of, I would say, tannin in them from the ground. Can you see that it gets a bit brown? And this is, I would say, it's tannin. But this one here does look like I said earlier, it could be an abscess blow. And remember, that would have blown up there at the skin line. It doesn't blow through the hoof wall. So something was happening in the life of this horse, and something was happening down there as well, because there's a little bit of blood there. What I can do is I can slice this foot now, and we can have a look and see if that blood is transversing from the inside to the outside, and if there's any evidence on the inside of it coming through. Because you would think that if this is where, let's call it a bruise, say he had an insult to this part of the hoof wall, why have we got it there as well? Now, it seems a bit odd that he would have had a injury there and an injury there, hit himself, and then the blood is coming through. So that's a little bit unlikely, I think. The next thing would be, is it pressure from the bottom? Is it the pressure from a trim which is not even is causing pressure up top? And it could be that when this horse was alive, this part of the hoof wall here and here, around here, the wall maybe was too long. And what that did is that created more pressure up here, and it caused rupture of the blood vessels up there. I don't know if that's true or it's just a thought, because a lot of people talk about this being an indication of uneven pressure on the foot or imbalance in the foot. So it sort of does sound plausible, doesn't it? But does it come from the inside? I don't think so. And then the question would be, well, is it coming from down here? Well, in this foot, it's quite a yellow foot. So what I find with yellow feet is that the horses that have them have normally been pretty poorly. And when I say poorly, I mean they've had bouts of colic, or they've had ulcers, or they've had EMS, or all sorts of internal problems. And I don't know the history on this guy, but this is quite a yellow looking foot. And some folks would say, no, the yellow is only to do with the grass that they've eaten. It's the chlorophyll in the grass, the green, that gets changed in the body, and then you get this strange yellow appearance. I'm not sure. Really, I'm not sure. But you see, this foot doesn't look like a neglected foot to me. This looks like a foot that, yes, it needed a trim. It was probably self-trimming, but I truly don't think that we're looking at a really bad neglected foot. So this looks like a foot that has been trimmed. We have white line separation around here, so that will be interesting to look at. And maybe there might be some laminitis, but being a hind foot, we don't often see a lot of signs of laminitis in hind feet, just because hind feet are not carrying the same amount of weight as the front feet, and they are different. The front feet are more like the pogo sticks for the direction, and the back feet are the energy source, the engine. And so the feet are quite different, really. And the hind feet are often spared with laminitis, but it doesn't look that brilliant, does it, really? So could we have redness in the white line? Well, I'm going to have to get my rasp and rasp this right back and have a look and see if we've got redness in the white line, see if we've got tearing of the white line, because that's the other thing that it could be. It could be that the wall is tearing away at the white line area and we're getting bleeding. Yeah, it's just another thought, really, but this is quite high, isn't it? Okay, well, I'm going to go and cut this, and then I will show you my findings, and we can enjoy the study together.